Hello and welcome to Growth Office Partners. My name is Kimberly Simon and I am your host. Today I am joined by Dr. Mike and we'll be talking about patient experience. Hey Dr. Mike, how are you?
I'm good, Kim. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, anytime. I'm really good. I'm excited for our discussion today. And just to provide some context, today we'll be talking about patient experience. And this has become one of the biggest competitive and reputational forces in healthcare. The gap between what patients expect and what their experience actually is growing. So today, the average patient in the US waits for more than 30 days to see a physician, for example. That is actually a signal of access strain and growing frustration. So today we'll be talking about some of the ways that leading practices manage patient experience. So before I begin, Dr. Mike, why don't you tell me a little bit about We Treat Feet, which is your practice. Tell us a little bit about the history, your team, what you do out there, and we will start the discussion.
Thank you. So I started in my current position in 2002, and I finished residency, and I'm still in my first job after residency, 24 years later. 2004, I was making more money than the doctor I joined, so I took a pay cut to become a partner. 2007, I bought him out, and I started accumulating practices and doctors. So now we extend through three states or three different territories: Maryland, Pennsylvania, and now Washington, D.C. We have 11 offices, 10 physician spaces. We have three ambulatory surgical facilities, a durable medical equipment arm, a PCR lab, a billing and consulting side, and in-house marketing and billing. So we kind of expanded into a little bit of everything. And I always say that you have to be careful because I'm a huge victim of be careful what you wish for because you just might get it.
So you're obviously growing and you're obviously good at what you do. Tell us a little bit about what it looks like to work for any one of your practices.
So I believe very much in autonomy for physicians. So I tell my doctors a couple of things when I interview them. The first is if they want to work for free, they're hired. And nobody's taken me up on that offer yet. But the second is that there's only really three times where they will ever actually speak to me. One, we have quarterly physician meetings, so I will be there, you will be there, expect to have conversation. Number two is if you stop by to say hi or call me because you want to talk about something specific or just say hi. Or number three, if there's a problem and I have to talk to you. I'm not somebody who micromanages. I don't go through, saying, oh, you should have done this, this, and this today. The only management that we really do for our doctors is really regarding documentation and billing. I tell people all the time, from the time the treatment room closes to the time the treatment door room opens, I don't want to have to tell you anything. I don't want to know what's going on in there. Obviously, it better be legal, but other than that, I don't care. So, you get through school, you get through residency. Some of them have had prior jobs. You should know how to handle the medicine. You should be a decent person and know how to talk to people. That part I shouldn't have to teach you. And, that's one of the reasons why most of our interview process is more personal and very, very little based on actual medical knowledge. I haven't asked anybody a bunion question in an interview in 20 years. So, we try to, have people be there and have this autonomy and this ability to practice in a way that make sense. I would say it has to make sense between their ears, not mine.
Okay, so you've been doing this for over 20 years. From your perspective, what's changed most about patient acquisition in the last few years?
So this is also where I think patient experience comes into it. When I started in practice, most of our patients either came from, referrals from friends or from the phone book or from primary care referrals. Nowadays, 90% of our referrals come from Google. And I think one of the reason there's this dichotomy between patients getting seen at appointment times and patient experiences primarily because with the rise of all these health systems and ASCs and medical homes, patients are referred within a small network. And, unless they make the effort to go outside the network, sometimes it's the path of least resistance. But again, the path of least resistance can be waiting 30 days for an appointment. We always have what I call same day, next day is, if you're a patient and you don't care who or where you're seen, we will see you today or tomorrow, depending on the time of day. We always fit people in. And obviously, if you want a certain doctor, you want a certain location, then we do have some restrictions and we have to do that. But I always think it's kind of ridiculous to give a patient an appointment 3 weeks from now. By then, their foot's falling off. I mean, they don't need me anymore, right? So, we try to get people in, as quickly as possible. that does kind of bleed into this expectation of things. And it's a new thing that I haven't really figured out how I can look at yet. I've been giving it a lot of thought. And, when someone comes in the door and sits down in your exam chair, what are their expectations? I mean, from my side, I expect to be able to help them, if not solve their problem, make their lives better. Most of the stuff I do is not life sustaining, it's life affirming. So, I'm here to help you. I mean, there is some infection stuff that we do, or even trauma stuff that we do that can be life threatening. But again, that's more on the limited side. Most of the infected wounds we take care of are not life threatening when we actually get them. Every once in a while, we get bad ones, but, for the most part. So I find that I can be a little bit more cordial, a little bit more friendly with my patients. I joke with my patients. I always end my guest visits, my patient visits with, all right, questions, comments, or funny jokes. Kind of my way of saying, okay, this is over unless you have something else to say. And people respond to it. Not everybody responds well. I look at reviews we get, and we'll get a 1-star review and said the doctor was great, but the front desk person was mean to me, or there was dirt on the floor in the waiting room, and they give us 2 star. I'm like, really?
Right.
I mean, again, you're running people through the office. They see how busy it is there, and they're complaining because somebody spilled something on a
If the
chair.
carpet wasn't.
Exactly. So it's those little things that I think people are now expressing themselves. Also, with the almost anonymity of being able to complain on the internet to strangers, it happens. There have been cases I've read about with doctors suing patients who give them bad reviews. And granted, most of them tend to be in, cosmetic related things or cash related practices more so. But there's all kinds of laws about these sort of things. Like, we can't answer a patient complaint online. The only thing we can say is, please call our office. We'd love to resolve this. We can't even acknowledge that you were a patient. So a lot of these rules just make it very, very complex. So I'm working on trying to figure out exactly what the patient experience needs to be these days. I'll let you know if I ever come up with the idea.
Well, you're obviously doing something right because you've been able to sustain and grow. So, based on your experience, where do you see practices wasting time or money when they're trying to grow?
So I think there's way too many dollars chasing the next big thing. And I've been guilty of this sometimes too. For us, it was, when laser therapy for fungal toenails came out, or the cold laser for pain management comes out, or every day there's a new gizmo or contraption that comes out that's supposed to make people better. And I take this in stride because I get contacted by, I think, every single one of them on LinkedIn. And I try to explain to them that I don't really necessarily want to attract more cash services. That's the big sell, cash service. Everyone wants a cash service for their practice because you get the money that day. The problem is by the time you take the time out to do that, if you really look at what you generate on a patient visit, you might not be making any more money. Yeah, you don't have back end stuff to do, but it could be actually less money. Now, is your time worth something? The time between when you do the service and when you get paid? Sure, it is. But unless you're doing a large volume of cash services in our business, I really don't think it's worthwhile. I think it actually costs you money to do it. And we have some, we do have a cold laser, and we do have lasers for fungal toenails and those sort of things. But for the most part, I really don't see myself as that kind of doctor. My specialty, or the particular part of the practice that I still do, is really, I always say, it's diabetic foot wounds. And I only have 3 types of patients: those who have wounds, those that had wounds, or those who will have wounds. That's it. That's all I see. So, not a lot of cash services for those patients, although there are some biologics now that they're pushing. But I feel really bad about taking somebody with a diabetic foot ulcers and healing and say, hey, for $1,000, I can inject magic juice and bam, you'll grow skin the next minute. Yeah, I don't, I have a problem with that because I also don't believe it. And I really can't sell something I don't believe.
So it's a big risk just jumping on all these quick fixes that some practices go and join. So moving on and now getting into technology, you're obviously working across multiple practices where clients may be different. How are you guys managing and using technology and AI within your practices?
So we've done several things utilizing AI within our practice. Some have been very successful, some have been colossal failures. On the successful side, we use ambient listening for our documentation. And what I found out, and what all of my doctors have found out, is when you use the ambient listening, things that you just normally say in the middle of conversation with a patient, which are actually medical advice, come out. the AI picks those up, get the AI note, and you review it, you'll say, yeah, I guess I did talk about that. And that's now in the note where before it would have been left out. Those sort of things also increase the level of complexity of visits and lead to, capture of revenue that we were, just throwing out before. So from that perspective, it's been a huge success. It is not the time saver that they say it is, because it does hallucinate at times. So you do have to proofread every note before you put it in the chart, and that does take time. So does it take more time to dictate it out and then you're supposed to proofread it? But nobody ever really did. You ever read a doctor's note? There's lots of dictation typos in there. Or reading the AI documentation, I think it's six half a dozen the other. So while my documentation is better, it certainly has not produced all of this free time I was hoping for. The other area where we've seen success is with marketing. AI is able to help us figure out what we should be placing in marketing and how we should be positioning ourselves and what we should be saying. Everything that goes out for us, basically, I have my hands on, especially if it's in blog posts and those sort of things where it's actual patient information, despite the fact that we always put this is not patient, this is not medical advice disclaimer on all of our stuff. We like to make sure it's accurate and that we're addressing the needs. And we like to know what people are looking for so we can provide those services and bring those topics to them. So that's been very helpful. And then, some back end stuff along with reporting and generating of records and being able to consolidate things in a quicker fashion than having to do it by hand. So those are all good things.
Right. And that leads me right into my next question. Where do you see automation, so AI automation, actually helping a practice convert or retain clients? So if you could switch a button on and say, okay, this is an automation that would help practices like yours, what would that button be?
Well, aside from getting one of those Elon Musk robots to sit in my office while I sit home in my sweatpants and, able to take care of patients that way. Hey, there's something amazing with that guy and it might be coming. I wish we could have, and again, I think this is irregardless of AI, but I wish, we had the magic pill or the magic button that could just solve the problem right then and there. I do believe information is power, and I like to give people information sheets, and I like to present information. And I hear very often that I'm the first doctor that's taken time to explain things to you, which I don't understand because I'm just doing my job. And there's an art form to getting in and out of a treatment room in 10 minutes without a patient thinking you got in and out of a treatment room in 10 minutes. But, that's what you need to do to keep the doors open these days. I don't know really what I say that's so much different. I mean, listen, I get kind of on autopilot these days, oh, it's a brand new diabetic with a diabetic foot exam. Okay, I know exactly what I'm saying before I come in the room, basically. So I just sit there and it just kind of spills out of my mouth at these days. The best thing I saw is I saw an interview with Billy Joel where he was talking about how when he gets up and plays, sometimes it's on autopilot. And he's sitting there thinking about as he's playing and singing, I wonder what they have for the hotel for dinner. That tuna sandwich looked pretty good. And then he says, and everything's going great until you hit the wrong note and you hear 30,000 people go. And that's kind of it with me. Everything's fine until you hit a note somewhere that you shouldn't have and somebody reacts in a way it's unexpected. So we're also in a field where it's very tactile. I mean, I have to use my hands to examine my patients. It's kind of hard to treat patients without feeling pulses and moving joints and feeling temperatures and those sort of things. So that's kind of hard to replace with my Elon Musk robot.
Mm-hmm.
One of my best friends from college is a cardiologist, and they now have stethoscopes where you put it up against someone's chest and it tells you what you're hearing. It doesn't, you don't even listen to the sound. It tells you what it is. So I sent that article to him with the message that you're about 10 minutes away from being replaced by AI. And he says, good thing I'm retiring in 9 minutes. So, you have those kind of issues going away is what is it really going to resolve, or when is the human factor really going to be coming out of the patient visit? And that's kind of the thing that is still going to be determined. I mean, obviously certain things are going to be replaced, but can you have a robot really do your bunion? Do you want to trust a robot to do your bunion? I don't know. They can't trust a robot to drive your car past a police car, I don't know. Someday, maybe.
And then I know that your practices are very focused on preserving that human touch. You mentioned last time that when you speak to new podiatrists joining you and they say, and you ask them, what do we do here? You actually say we answer the phone.
I do. That's what I tell people whenever they come in. What do we do here? And nobody ever says that. And when they're done whatever they're going to say, I go, no, you're wrong. We answer the phone. That's what we do. It's our first touch point with patients. And the problem with that is we can't hire Rhodes Scholars to answer our phones. So there's a lot of tone and tenor that comes out in people when they're speaking that is either misunderstood or misconstrued. And you can offend somebody very easily by saying something innocuous. So there's a reason I don't answer the phone. But, at the same token is you would expect when somebody applies for that job that they would understand how to speak on a telephone. I tell all of them, if they're on the phone and they're arguing with a patient, they're wrong. I don't care what the patient says. They're our customers. They're who feeds your family. There's where your paycheck comes from. They're not wrong. They might be difficult, but they're not wrong. And you're not going to convince them they're wrong. So if you can't stop, then you need to kick it upstairs to management and get out of this conversation, or you need to apologize and give them what they want because you cannot convince people, especially when you're arguing on a phone. People are very strong on a phone and very weak in front of you. Confrontation is easy when you're hiding.
Yeah.
Some people, that's how they want to handle it. They want to be confrontational for some reason. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too much kumbaya, get along with everybody, because I want to get along with everybody and I deal with the public all day long. So I don't want to have controversy. I would very, very much like to avoid conflict whenever possible. Sometimes you can't. But I work really hard to do it. And, I always tell patients, at the end of the day, it's either good for them or good for business, their choice.
Right. And then finally, what is one mindset shift that leaders can make to grow sustainably?
So this is interesting because there's been a huge shift in medicine, just the corporate practice of medicine. So when I was a resident or new in practice, everybody who ran the hospital were doctors, and 60 or 70% of doctors were in private practice, and that has completely shifted around today. So now you have under 50%. I think the last thing I read is 41% of doctors are now in private practice, and hospitals are run by MBAs, not by doctors. So you kind of lose that personal touch. And as a result, patients are not getting treated the same way and they almost become numbers and it becomes like a factory. And I think as a result, when people get out of residency, they're not looking for their careers anymore. They're looking for a job. And the problem with a job is well, when you're tired of it, you go look for another job. The days of a doctor hanging a shingle on a wall and sitting in an office for 30 years are over. That just doesn't happen anymore, and people leave for a whole host of reasons: location, money, family issues, you name it. So, with that has come the dichotomy of lifestyle change that you see. And you see this outside medicine too. People want to have their personal space. They want to have their personal time. They want to have their experiences. And usually on the priority list of the day for younger doctors, work is not number one. I mean, I grew up in a society where it was number one. And, we deal with patients. We deal with people's lives. That comes first more than anything else. That's, both a moral issue as well as a career issue. But they don't do that anymore. And it's hard because people don't get sick 9 to 4:30. People get sick after hours. They come and they sit in the hospital all day before the ED docs get to them. So, having to do after hours stuff like call or rounding in the hospital, we have a hard time recruiting people because they don't want to do that. They want to go home at 4 o'clock and put their feet up and do whatever people do in their homes these days. And that's kind of hard because, again, who's going to take care of us when we're old?
Well, thank you so much for those nuggets that you shared here today. We always end with something personal. You've worked really hard, you continue to work hard, and you obviously care about the work that you're doing. But what is the big dream? What is your dream? And then with you, I kind of want to go a step further and say, and what is your fear? So your dream and your biggest fear.
Well, they're the same thing. My dream is retirement. And when we talk about being afraid, people say, well, when? I go, well, I'd love to retire in 5 years. It's probably more like 10 years. I'm kind of scared it's 15 years. But I'm also really scared that I'm going to do really well saving and planning for retirement and, set myself up for a lovely retirement and retire and drop dead the next day. It just the kind of luck I have that I wouldn't get to enjoy what I've been working so hard for. I am not somebody who lives to work. I consider work a four-letter word. There are lots of other four-letter words in the English language that are very descriptive. So I want to, when I'm done, I want to be done. And, you know, that day will come someday. When I'm ready to leave, I'm going to make sure that the door doesn't hit me where the good Lord split me.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I am going to share details of Retreat Feet. Dr. Mike is always looking for some great podiatrists to join his practice as they grow. So if you are in that industry and you are looking for a great practice to join, please reach out to him. I'll share his details over here. And obviously, as you've heard, if you ever are in need of one of their services, I will also share their website link there so that you can reach them. They are in 3 states. So I am Kimberly Simon from Growth Office Partners, and we look forward to hearing from you and to speaking with you in our next session. Have a great day.